She's like, well, I'm going to show them how to smoke because that's clearly what we should be doing.
That's clearly the best thing to do if you meet space aliens or whatever they are.
The sound of the match burning just freaks them out. They jump up, clutching their mince meat pies in their little nubbin hands, and they bolt for the back door. Jean quickly puts out the cigarette, yelling at them, come back, come back. So they're boogalooing towards their alien ship in the backyard with their little pies in hand. They dive into the UFO, door shuts, it takes off. At that exact same moment, Hobo the dog, he pops up, he gets to his feet, shakes himself off, kind of wanders around sniffing the garden like, what the heck just happened?
Welcome to the Parsonage Files. This week, Pastor Rick and his brother Rob are delving into why space aliens hate artificial Christmas trees, but make surprisingly good evangelists. Here's Rob and Rick.
Some stories are just too odd for Sunday mornings. Hi, I'm Rick, pastor of Groveport United Methodist Church, and I'm here with my brother Rob.
Hey, everybody.
And welcome to the Parsonage Files. Today's topic is the odd hatred space aliens seem to have for artificial Christmas trees.
They do seem to really dislike those.
They really do. I don't know if it's the aluminum, but we'll get into that here on the Parsonage Files. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. All right, so today's story takes us back to Christmas of 1979.
What were you doing, Pastor Rick, in Christmas of 1979?
I was in first grade.
So was I.
And if we go back to Christmas of 1979, the big toys were the Millennium Falcon.
Oh, we had that.
The Star Wars Droid Factory.
We had that.
Did we have the Battlestar Galactica Viper?
Yes.
And we even got the little torpedo things taken away because some kid somewhere choked on it.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep, and electronic games. Those were all popular Christmas of 1979. But our story is taking us across the pond, as they say, to jolly old England. And we are going to meet one Jean Hingley, 43 years old, and her dog, Hobo. Rob, why don't you tell us about the encounter that Jean and her trusty dog had one cold morning?
Absolutely, Pastor Rick. All right, our story takes place the week after Christmas in 1979. Snow's on the ground. Christmas lights are still hanging around on all the houses. There's leftover food in the fridge. Jean and her husband, Cyril, lived in a small, simple house on a street called Bluestone Walk in Raleigh Regis, near the city of Birmingham. Their home was part of a group of little houses built by the town. Old quarries and empty land was all that was around them. They didn't have a lot, but it was enough. And they also had each other.
And that's a lot for love.
And they also had Hobo, their big 2.5-year-old Alsatian dog. On the morning of January 4th, 1979, Jean did what she did every workday. She stood on the back porch, waved goodbye to Cyril as he drove off to his job at the cement factory. She could feel the cold air on her face. It was still dark outside. Snow was crunching beneath her feet. She was just looking forward to going back inside, getting herself a warm cup of coffee, and getting her day going. She looked down. Her dog Hobo standing there. Life was pretty normal. And then Jean noticed a dim orange glow in the back of her garden, behind the carport. She frowned. Cyril must have left that carport light on again. It was something he did often. She walked down the path to go switch it off, muttering under her breath about how Cyril could be more considerate. The snow was hard and icy under her feet. When she reached the carport, the light switch was already off, but there was still that glow there. It wasn't coming from the carport. The light was coming from something that was hanging over the garden like a big, round ball. As she stared at it, the soft orange glow of it began to change. It started to grow brighter and brighter, turning white until the whole yard shone like in the middle of the day. Then she heard the sound that would make her famous. Zee! 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 She said.
Could you do that again for us?
Zee! Zee! Zee!
Just like I'm there.
Yeah, right, just like you're there. All right, so 3 glowing shapes shot past her through the open door into her house. Right now, she's really regretting leaving that door open.
So when you say glowing shapes, are we talking, were these beings?
They were beings. She described them as being about 3.5, 4 feet tall.
Okay.
They didn't walk. They floated about a foot above the ground.
Hmm.
They were slim, delicate, with arms and legs that ended in sharp points instead of the normal hands and feet. They wore silvery green tunics with little waistcoats with buttons down the front, snazzy dressers. Their heads were covered with clear, bow-like helmets, not unlike goldfish bowls. And on top of each of these helmets sat tiny little lamps,
Like a desk lamp?
like a desk lamp. I was thinking more of an anglerfish, but sure, we'll go with desk lamp. Their faces were waxy white, like candle wax. Their mouths were nothing but thin lines. They had no eyebrows and no discernible ears. Their eyes were dark and shiny. Jean later would say they looked like black diamonds. And on their backs, here, Pastor Rick, this is their best part. They had large, clear wings. The wings were long ovals covered in raised dots, almost like a braille pattern. And these wings, they glowed with rainbow colors: red, blue, green, gold, purple. And Jean said they were brighter than any color she had ever seen. And a soft halo of light shone around each of these small little bodies. Obviously, Jean was kind of freaked out at this point. She,
Well, I mean, one would expect to be at least a little bit freaked out if you had some sort of glowing
alien dudes that just entered your house.
well, I mean, you don't know that they're necessarily aliens. They're something, and they're glowing, and they're in your house.
Right. And that's the part that kind of bothers Jean the most, is they're now in her house. Now she has to deal with this.
So
right?
are the lights attached to the fish bowls?
Yes, they're attached to the lid. Yeah, I don't understand what you're finding difficult about this. They have fish bowls with a light attached to the top, as you do.
It just seems like something like a 7-year-old would put together in their room.
Or aliens.
Or aliens. Sorry, go
or
ahead.
whatever interdimensional beings, whatever these are.
I don't mean to interrupt your story.
Are you done?
Yeah.
You're done?
I'm done.
Okay. So Jean was terrified. So she goes into the house, and now she's got a house with 3 floating, glowy, winged people. So she's freaking out. She grabs the metal sink with both hands. Her whole body's like frozen in fear, kind of like when you don't know what you need to do. Her mouth hung open. She tried to scream. Nothing happened. But to the rescue came Hobo, her brave guard dog. He started barking, started growling at him. So he's in full, I'm going to mess with you. Get out of my house.
He's in full protection mode.
Full protection mode. He's first standing up all over his body. Then all of a sudden, he kind of sways a little bit, as if he was dizzy. And then he just drops down by his water bowl and laid there stiff on the floor, eyes wide open, like he was drugged and in a trance.
They zapped Hobo?
They zapped Hobo. So Hobo's out of the picture.
That seems entirely unnecessary.
Really is inappropriate to zap the dog.
He wasn't biting. He was just barking.
Doing what dogs do, and he gets zapped by these creatures. So Hobo's, he's no help. He's passed out next to his doggy bowl.
He's gotten zapped.
And so later Jean would say, at that point, I felt all the blood running out of my body. I felt paralyzed. I was terrified. I couldn't move, couldn't speak.
Well, yeah, they just zapped her dog.
All right? What's going to happen to you? But after a while, she said, fear began to fade. I felt as if I was lifted up, she said, as if I became a different person. I had a sense of peace, of calm wash over me. And then she saw the light. She saw a light glowing in her living room. She started to head towards this light. Like, why is there a light in my living room? What's going on in here? As she approached the living room, she said she wasn't afraid. She felt compelled to go in and see what was happening. As she moved in, the light got brighter and brighter, so much that she had to cover her eyes. And at the same time, she began to hear it. She began to hear her little Christmas tree begin to shake and rattle and roll in the living room. There was also, at this time, she said, a strange feeling in her head, like the light was penetrating her brain and reading her thoughts. When the light began to dim a little bit, she lowered her hands that were covering her eyes.
So is this the light that's coming off their heads?
Unclear where the light's coming from, but
Okay.
one would assume that is what was happening.
Okay.
So once the light dimmed, she saw what was happening. Those three aliens were beating the tar out of her Christmas tree.
Were they beating it like it owed them money?
They were. They were working hard on that Christmas tree. They were shaking it, tugging on it, pulling it from side to side. She described them as looking like excited children who've never been in a house before. They're moving it around. The Christmas ornaments are falling off. There's an angel on top of it. It's wobbling around. It goes crashing onto the floor. Eventually, they seem satisfied with the Christmas tree, that it wasn't angering them or whatever it was.
So basically, there are like 3 cats.
Three cats
Just
just
knocking the
stuffings out of a Christmas tree.
knocking the stuffings out of the Christmas tree.
So once they got done taking care of the Christmas tree, they then started floating around the room, beginning to touch everything.
Oh, no.
So now she's like, "Oh, look at this! Now what's going to happen?"
So they totally destroyed her Christmas tree, and now they're going for the decorations.
They're going for the Christmas decorations and everything else.
Oh no!
So they brushed their pointed little arms across the Christmas cards on the mantle, knocking those things all asunder.
Oh jeez!
They head for the clock. She's like, "No, not the clock!" They start messing with the clock. Then they float over and they see her radio. Well, they got to start messing with that. And then they become fascinated with her furniture. They basically, she said, looked like curious kids who had never been in a house before. So at this point, Jean is like, "Okay, I've had enough of this." Jesus got to say something.
So what are they doing to her furniture?
They're touching it. They're messing with it. I mean, bouncing on it. Yeah. So she finally's had enough, and she's like, "Listen, I noticed 3 of you and only 1 of me. But what are you guys going to do? What do you want from me?" This is when things went from weird to just downright strange. She says each of the small men lifted their pointed little arms to their chest and began to push buttons on this device that they had. Basically, they had Dr. Theophilus around their neck, and Jean heard beeping sounds coming from them. Beep, 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 beep. And those beeping sounds began to turn into voices. She wanted to make it clear the voices weren't coming from their thin little mouths. They were coming from whatever these boxes were hanging around their necks. Darth Vader style, little box with 70s buttons on it.
Like a universal translator kind of thing?
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
And the mechanical voices said, "We shall not harm you." "Where did you come from?" Jean asked. They just pointed up with their pointy little hands. "We come from the sky." With that, they floated over, realized the Christmas tree needed another good beating, and started back in beating on the Christmas tree. Well, Jean's like, "Listen, she thought maybe if I had a conversation with them, they'd leave the Christmas tree alone." So she's like, "That Christmas tree we put up to celebrate the birth of Jesus. We believe in Jesus Christ as our Savior." The aliens look at her, start messing with the gauges on their shirts again. "We know Jesus Christ. We know Jesus." And stopped beating on the tree at that point. They then floated around the room a little more, spotted the Sunday paper laying on the coffee table. They kind of floated over to it, and on the front of it was a list of people who in the UK had just been made lords by the Queen. Trying to make conversation with them, she says, "These people have been made lords. There is only one Lord, only one Lord, only one Lord." They began screaming at her. She's like, "Oh, okay, you're right. Only one Lord, Jesus Christ. Calm down there, boys." They then looked at a picture of the Queen. Jean, still being a little shaky, not really sure how to make small talk with these guys, said, and kind of jokingly, "You should go visit the Queen. She's a real lady." "You are a lady, aren't you? You are a lady." Kind of confused. She's like, "Yeah, well, guess you have a point." So at this point, the living room had this big corner couch in it. Okay.
Yeah.
So now they're done floating around looking at the paper. They start heading towards this couch. The 3 beings, for all intents and purposes, sat down on the couch and began to bounce on it like little boys. "Whee! This is fun. This is fun. Whee!" Okay, I made up that this is fun part, but they were bouncing on the couch. Whee! Whee! And Jean, that just set her off, man. You can come into her house. You can touch her Christmas tree. You can knock her dog out, but by golly, you do not jump on the furniture.
We do not jump on the furniture.
Do not jump on furniture. So she yells at them, "Be careful with my furniture." They stopped at once, kind of looking a little embarrassed. One of them shone a strong beam of light from his headlamp straight at her. Her eyes began to burn, and she felt frozen again. When they turned the light down, she could move. She slowly began to feel calmer again. The fear that she had just had started to fade, and now a strange happiness came back. "They looked at me with those black, diamond-friendly eyes," she said. Sitting beside them, she told them, Guys, I can't really call you creatures, so I shall call you gentlemen. Nice to see you." "Nice, nice, nice," they started replying, their voices coming from their little chest devices. So, Pastor Rick, what do you think so far?
So how big are these aliens again?
3 to 4 feet tall.
So 3 or 4 feet tall. So size of an elementary school kid.
Yeah. So let's reframe. Let's frame where we're at currently, Pastor Rick.
Okay.
So we got 3 or 4 foot aliens
Check.
who are talking through some type of universal translator on their chest,
Okay, check.
who have come into a lady's house, knocked out her dog, messed up her Christmas decorations,
Check.
and jumped on her furniture. And now she's sitting down to have what she says is a nice little chat with them. So she's sitting there with the aliens on her couch.
Okay.
She gets the boys to calm down, and they tell her that they've visited Australia, New Zealand, and America, but that people really just didn't seem all that interested in talking with them.
Well, it's because they're messing with everyone's stuff.
I mean, come on, guys, read the room.
Quit touching. Nobody wants their stuff touched, right? Quit touching everyone's stuff.
Absolutely. When Jean asked if she could tell others about this visit, they said, "Yes, we have been here before. We shall come again. By the way, everybody will go to heaven. There are beautiful colors there." Like, thanks for that.
They're like, oh yeah, by the way, can I tell you about Jesus?
Exactly.
I mean, they're like, interstellar Mormons or something.
Right. And
Yeah.
and she rivets them with some entertaining conversation of her own.
Oh,
She said they politely sat there and listened while she talked about work, politics, and women's rights.
this is why they're coming back to destroy us. We tried to talk to them. They were boring.
I mean, it's basically everything they tell you not to talk about at Thanksgiving dinner. She's just berating these aliens with.
Oh, I bet she was a joy to have for holiday meals.
Imagine.
Yeah.
She said it was strange. These three glowing angels or aliens or whatever were sitting there talking like they were having a coffee hour at church. At some point, the aliens soon began to grow restless again. Can't imagine why.
Can't imagine why that would have happened.
So they began to float down her hallway, folded their little wings behind their backs like little fans, and glided up her stairs. The bedroom doors were shut, so they came back down.
So they won't go in if the doors are shut.
Apparently.
Well, at least they're kind of polite.
Right. I mean, they could have.
I mean, they mess up your stuff.
Maybe they can't open doors because they don't have.
Oh,
fingers.
that's right.
They
They
just have those little mitten
can't.
hands.
They just have those little hands. They
They can't
can't open a door.
They got little mitten hands with slippery.
So we know how to defeat them when they invade.
Right, because they've got slippery gloves on their hands. They just can't open doors. She's go behind closed doors.
Anything that requires gripping.
Anything that requires gripping. So once back downstairs, they picked up cassette tapes and set them down again. They seemed really confused by what these were.
So are millennials.
Right. They tapped at packets of cigarettes that were laying around, and then they began to go through her liquor cabinet, particularly fond of whiskey and sherry that had been set out for Christmas. Jean took this as they wanted a drink. I mean, ever the hostess. Clearly they wanted a drink. So she asked them, "Hey guys, you interested in having a drink?" And they looked at her, messed with their little mechanical things on their suits again, and said, "Water. Water, water." She heads into the kitchen and gets 4 glasses of water, 3 of them for her and then 1 for herself, because at this point she's a little parched and she could use some water herself. She put the glasses on a metal tray and began to head back in. Here's what's a little interesting is that as she began going down the hallway back towards the aliens, she said it felt like the tray was being tugged by an invisible force, as if it was like a strong magnetism pulling the tray towards the aliens. So she gets back into the living room, sits the tray down in front of them. She grabs a glass of water for herself. Each of the aliens with their little mitten hands grabs the glass, kind of brings it up to their mouths. She said that as she was watching them, it looked like they were going to raise their helmets to drink.
Yeah.
And she was very interested to see what that was going to be like. They're going to take their helmets off finally. And just then, all the little lights on top of the helmets kick on, blind her. And when the lights go back off, they're sitting the glasses down on the table empty. So she assumed they either drank the water through the helmet or lifted their visor and drank the water. But regardless, they did not want her to see what had happened. Weird. I mean, I know some people don't like to be watched eating, but that seems to be taking that a little far. So now that they're hydrated, they began to look around for some snacks. And they noticed 3 mince pies sitting on the counter.
Oh, no.
What do you feel about mincemeat, Pastor Rick?
Personally, I'm not a huge fan.
See, and I love it. So in most English homes at Christmas time, there is always a treat sitting around, mince pies. For those of you who might not be familiar, long ago, these pies historically did have meat in them. But for a long time now, a mince pie has been a small sweet treat. The crust is flaky, filled with a mix of chopped fruit, sugar, and warm spices like cinnamon. Long ago, people added animal fat, suet basically, to hold it together. And this filling is called mincemeat, even though it's nowadays just fruit. Hundreds of years ago, here's a fact coming at you, Pastor Rick. These pies were something shaped long and thin like a tiny manger, and people would think of baby Jesus as they ate them. The rich fruit and spices reminded them of the gifts of the wise men. Did not know that.
See, now you know.
Now I know. So in 1979, these mince pies were snack size or a little bigger. And whenever they were baked, English kids knew that smell well. And it was Christmas time, right?
Yeah.
And Jean had just made them. So she saw them eyeing those pies in the kitchen.
Yeah.
She goes, she brings about half dozen in there to them, sits them down in front of them and says, okay, guys, help yourself. They each lifted the mince pie from the plate as though their hands were magnetic, she would later say. The pies just sort of stuck to the pointed little hands. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
They really didn't seem quite sure how to eat them. But to be fair, this is probably their first time eating a pie.
See, you got to come a little slack.
Right, you do. She would later say that these three little gentlemen kept glancing at her pack of cigarettes.
Uh-oh.
So Jean decided that this was a time to show them how smoking worked.
So 70s. That's a 70s thing to do.
You got your pie, you've had your something to drink.
And now I'm going to teach you how to smoke a cigarette.
The 70s. Ashtrays everywhere.
For a moment, I thought she was gonna tell them about the dangers of smoking. No. She's like, here, guys, light up.
Here, have one. I mean, to be fair, it was a time when kids made ashtrays for their parents in school.
I made ashtrays for our parents in school, and they didn't even smoke.
Absolutely. Do you remember that big yellow ashtray that we sat on our living room table?
Yes.
And no one smoked.
No one smoked. But it was there in case somebody came over and did.
Right. You were set. So she's going to teach these aliens how to smoke. So she picked up a cigarette, struck the match, and lit it.
So now, are their helmets still down, or have they finally taken their helmets off?
No, their helmets are down. They got pies in their hand, helmets down.
And somehow they were able to eat the pies, the helmet?
No, they never ate the pies. They got them in their hands, Pastor Rick. And they're just like,
not sure what to do.
What am I to do with this? What am I to do with this? And they keep
and then she hands them a cigarette.
And so now she's like, well, I'm going to show them how to smoke, because that's clearly what we should be doing.
That's clearly the best thing to do if you meet space aliens or whatever they are.
So as she strikes the match to light the cigarette, the sound of the match burning just freaks them out. They jump up, clutching their mincemeat pies in their little nubbin hands, and they bolt for the back door. Jean quickly puts out the cigarette, yelling at them, come back, I didn't mean anything. So they're boogalooing towards their alien ship in the backyard with their little pies in hand. They get to what's she describes as an egg-shaped craft about 8 to 10 feet long, 4 feet high, with round windows or portholes along the side. The whole surface looked like a shiny plastic or glowing metal. It was emanating light from within. On the back of it, she said it had something that looked a lot like a scorpion's tail, and on top was a little wheel. The object flashed its lights twice.
Like your car does when you unlock it.
So they're booking for the car. The lights flash a couple times.
So it's like they're unlocking the UFO.
So basically they're heading to the back, hitting their key fob. We gotta go.
We gotta go.
They dive into the UFO. Door shuts. It takes off, and as it flies over the fence into the dark sky, heading towards the town next door. In the snow where the ship had been was a clear oval mark, thin straight lines, looking like a little landing feet had marked the snow where they had been. At that exact same moment, Hobo the dog, he pops up. He gets to his feet, shakes himself off, kind of wanders around sniffing the garden like, what the heck just happened?
That's the most 1970s thing I have ever heard.
Right? Ashtrays everywhere in the 70s.
Ashtrays everywhere. I always liked restaurants. You could go in and they had like an invisible wall that somehow,
that was going to stop the cigarette smoke.
Like the cigarette smoke was going to go from the smoking to the non-smoking and just stop at that invisible wall.
Every kid made ashtrays for their parents, regardless.
I made ashtrays for my parents in art class, and they never smoked.
We had ashtrays at home, and no one ever came over and smoked.
Yeah, we had that big orange one.
Yeah,
and then we had that yellow glass one.
Yeah,
that always sat next to Dad's chair.
Yeah,
and he never smoked ever.
Nope, never smoked.
Never smoked. Yeah.
So Jean goes back inside. She's looking around, and maybe she made this up. Maybe she had a hallucination. She doesn't know what to think. Then she notices that some things are actually odd in the house that can't be explained. Her electric clock, it stopped working. The radio and TV quit working, and it would be a few weeks before those started to come back online. And later she found that all of her cassette tapes have been erased. So either the aliens were magnetic or they really hated Folcat.
Did what?
Hated Folcat. Isn't that a band?
Folcat.
Isn't that a band?
Folcat? Never heard of Folcat.
Yeah, 70s band.
Are you meaning Fog Hat?
I guess. Okay, won't be saying that.
Folcat. No.
What's it called?
Fog Hat. Foghat.
Fog Hat?
Fog Hat.
It's Fog Hat. Foghat.
It's always been Fog Hat.
Folcat.
No.
Fallcat. Folcat.
No. It's Foghat. 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 An English rock band formed in London in 1871. The band is known for their use of electric slide guitar in their music. The best known song is their 1975 hit, Slow Ride.
Take it easy.
Yeah, Foghat.
Fog Hat.
Fog Hat. Foghat.
Just leave it out.
Oh, I'm not taking it out. All right, Foghat. There is no Foghat as a band. There is a anime character. Did you really think it was Foghat?
Yeah, absolutely.
So for 52 years, you thought there was a band called Foghat?
I legit thought it was Folcat.
Foghat.
Because that makes so much more sense.
Foghat. Did you ever see that written anywhere?
Okay, we just have to agree to disagree on this.
No, there's no agree to disagree. That's not the name of the band.
Slow Ride.
It's Fog Hat.
Okay, well, her Fog Hat cassette was gone, was erased by the aliens. You happy? All right.
I'll almost guarantee you Dad knows that Fog Hat is a band.
Okay, so back to Jean.
Yeah. So the UFO takes off and out of sight it goes. So what does she do?
All right, so she heads in, and she does what anyone normally would do. They call their spouse to say what just happened. So she phones Cyril at work. I just had visitors with wings, she told him. What do you mean, birds? He asked, laughing at her. No, men with wings.
Oh, that went over well.
Yeah, his reply was...
Cyril seems like a guy who would...
He's going
to take this well.
He's like, honey, why don't you just go down and have your hair done, made pretty with those girls, and you tell them all about that.
Go get your hair done and tell them.
So she hangs up with Cyril.
So he didn't just rush home to be with her.
He
in her
is not
time of
coming
need.
home from the cement plant to have a conversation with her about this. So she goes next door to talk to her neighbor about it. And her neighbor does the rational thing and says, hey, you should call the cops. So she does. And they come out and they note that she looks pale, as if she was in a state of shock. They couldn't take any fingerprints from the snow or from the vanished visitors.
Because they didn't have any fingers.
Right. But they did measure the oval mark in the garden, and they said it was about 8 feet by 4 feet. And they took soil samples because they always take soil samples.
Always take soil samples. But the thing is with the soil samples, right, is they either A, get lost,
or come back negative.
Or come back inconclusive to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they always take them.
Yeah. And later a UFO group from Birmingham turned up, and they measured things and took some more soil samples. So in the few days following the incident, things started to calm down. Then it happens, Pastor Rick.
Yeah.
On January 6th, the Christmas tree disappeared from her living room.
What?
It just was gone. She says it reappeared on January 8th in the front yard, torn to pieces with all the decorations gone.
They stole her Christmas tree.
And then over the next few days, the missing ornaments slowly began to reappear in the garden as if someone or something was dropping them back off one by one. Jean's eyes still bothered her for weeks. Eventually, she would recover. She often had fits of shaking and tiredness, but would also have these odd feelings of peace wash over her. People who knew her said she was a very honest woman and not the kind to make up stories or play tricks.
Well, and that's the last time she saw the aliens. It isn't like they came back. Well, I mean, other than
Except to drop off the Christmas ornaments after they were messing with it. I mean, they really disliked that tree.
They really had a thing for that tree.
Right. I mean, at least they could have done was brought back the pie pans.
All right. That was a question I had. So they stole the pie pans. I got to tell you, everyone who I know that's a baker, man, they want their pie pan back.
Right. And it's going to be
they're hunt you down for those pie pans.
I mean, it goes from being slightly annoyed if they're Walmart brand pans to being really annoyed and hunting the aliens down if they're from like Williams-Sonoma.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Obviously, this story didn't just stay with Jean. It got out. Did this make it into the press?
It did. It had headlines, as you might expect. The case of the Mince Pie Martians.
Oh, no.
The winged beings over Bluestone Walk was another headline. And it kind of took on a mythical lore in England. It's often told on lots of podcasts around this time of year. Kind of a lighthearted story. So it's an interesting Christmas.
Yeah, and the fact that they acknowledged Jesus as Lord.
Well, that's the interesting part, right? So some people are like, are they aliens? Were they
Angels?
Were
Yeah.
they fairies?
That's what I was thinking. They sounded more like angels.
They had wings.
Correct. I mean, they pointed up, but that doesn't mean anything.
I mean, right. Now, the fishbowl helmets on the head.
Okay, I've never heard of an angel having to have a fishbowl helmet with a desk light glued to the top. But, I mean, anything's possible, I assume, with
And
God.
do aliens have little translators around their neck?
I mean, that seems more like technology than like a spiritual thing, but I don't know. That's really weird though, because that really brings up a lot of questions for them to say that Jesus is Lord. Of course, this is all assuming that Jean didn't just make this whole thing up.
Well, there is that as well. I mean, or she could have had some issues. We really don't know. But it's a great story.
And Jean never saw these beings again, as far as we know.
As far as we know, no. Never reported another alien sighting.
And she never got her pie pans back, as far as we know.
Nope.
So
See, and that would be the thing that's weird. Why are they returning the Christmas ornaments, but not the pie pans? It's almost like they're kind of like, these are ugly Christmas ornaments, and returning them. But the pie pans are useful.
Unless, A, they had a use for them. B, they didn't know they were supposed to return them.
Maybe they ate them.
Maybe she used like aluminum pie pans. I don't know if that was a thing back then, but
Well, I was right. Or maybe they sold them.
because I've been told if you're making pies for any sort of bake sale or whatever, always use aluminum because you're not going to get your pie pan back.
That's wise. As someone who's been there, been around the block.
So I do have a mincemeat story.
Who doesn't?
First church I served, they had a fall sale, and they would sell baked goods, and they would make noodles and sell noodles and handicraft. You know how churches do.
Normal church stuff.
Yeah, normal church stuff. And one of the things they did was make mincemeat. And the mincemeat I was familiar with was what our mother would make for my dad, and it never had any real meat in it. And they were in there making the mincemeat at church, and I go in there, and they had
It had meat in it?
yeah, it had beef, and they were running it through a grinder, grinding it up and putting it into the mixture of. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're making mincemeat." And I said, "Well, why are you putting meat in it?" And they said, "Because it's mince meat."
Oh, I've never had that way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't remember if I ate any of it or not, but I was shocked. One and only time I've ever seen it. Now I've seen people use like, lard or, sinuate or
Yeah, to simulate the meat.
yeah, to hold it together.
together,
but
right.
but actually grinding up beef.
And that's what makes it yummy, is right? Is the
Yeah. And,
hard.
and this is the thing. They all looked at me like I was nuts.
Like you were the one
Like
that
I
weird.
was like, what do you mean?
I've never.
Never seen it. Don't know.
I mean, I'm not an expert, but I mean, I've had a lot of mincemeat pies, and it's always been fruits.
See, I don't like mincemeat because it always gives me tummy troubles.
I think you might have just hit the nail on the head.
And maybe that was it. They got the mincemeat. It was giving them alien tummy troubles, and it just was a coincidence that it was when she tried to show them how to smoke, or
That's why they put it out on the Christmas tree.
or
later.
the aliens are really into health, and they were like, smoking's bad, smoking bad.
Surgeon General, Surgeon General.
Right? Yeah. I don't know, but that is funny. She tried to teach him how to smoke, and it chased him out of her house.
No, I'm thinking that's why they took her Christmas tree on the 6th and started tearing it apart. They got tummy troubles from the mincemeat, and they just like she must pay for this. She must pay for this.
Or they were flying home and they got thinking about it, and they were like, we must have tree, because
I was thinking it was more of a that's the ugliest tree we've ever seen. Must destroy.
or maybe they're like they put tree up for Jesus. We need to do the same. And their buddies were like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "It's a decorated tree." So they go back and get the decorated tree to show them, because their buddies are like, "Nobody cuts down a tree and decorates
What
it."
kind of culture would cut down a tree and
they
hang
go,
things on
they
it?
go, "It wasn't real. It was metal." No, they buy metal fake trees and put lights on them. Yes. What does that have to do with Jesus? I don't know.
Apparently everything.
Apparently everything. Everyone's got one. And so maybe that was it. I mean, I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. Or they could have just been really, really unhappy with the mince pie, and they just wanted to take it out on her tree. But the fact that they returned it in pieces is kind of awesome.
Right. I mean, it's sort of like a mafia, right?
Yeah.
Pieces just dropping it on your lawn every day.
Or it was, sorry about that. I mean, there was no note, right?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Okay, no notes or anything like that.
I'm personally looking at Hobo.
What does Hobo know?
What does he know?
Was Hobo really zapped? Or did Hobo just,
Didn't want to deal with this.
didn't want to deal with it? Or maybe he was given a little extra kibble on the side if he just laid down and let it happen? Because if their chess thing talked English, talked human, spoke English, why couldn't it have spoke dog?
I think it only spoke English, because that's why. Remember, they said they only went to.
You're right. They only went to English-speaking countries.
So there's a reason for that. Maybe they only can translate it into one language.
Could be. More I'm looking at this story. This story would have worked in a sermon. You've got evangelism. I mean, honestly, these aliens are better at evangelism than most Christians.
Agreed.
The Bible says that Christians should invite other believers who they've never met in and give them hospitality. She was clearly giving other believers hospitality. I mean, even though they were wearing
And liquor and smokes.
yeah, that's a little. I don't know about that, but I mean, it was the time. I guess that's what she did back then. I think this story, you could do some things with it. Again, there's also the possibility that she just made the whole story up.
You don't think, Pastor Rick, that this didn't really happen?
No, of course this happened. It's just a coincidence that this just looks like a fairy.
Right.
So do we know, was Jean into like fairies and that kind of thing?
No, and her neighbor said that she was a completely normal, rational human being normally.
Weird. It is undoubtedly one of my favorite alien encounter stories, right up there with the pancakes and what's the robot one where the guy climbs up the tree?
Oh, is that Cisco Grove?
Yeah. And it's also right up there with Cisco Grove with the aliens and knockout gas. These are my favorite type of alien encounters. Not a huge fan of people being kidnapped from their beds with, big bug-eyed aliens. I like the ones where they're kind of odd looking and they do odd, weird things.
Oh, I forgot about our conversation that she had with the aliens.
Okay.
So at one point when she was having the chat fest with them before the pies and cigarette incident,
Yeah.
she was telling them how, basically confessing to them how she hadn't been to church in several years because her church, quote, had one of those guitars and keyboards, and I hate those things. They looked at her and
And this was 1979.
right. So it must have been a pretty progressive church, right?
Yeah, it must have been. Especially where she was. I mean, that probably would have been Anglican.
And so but the alien said not to worry, that you didn't need to go to church to go to heaven, and that synagogues weren't necessary.
Huh.
She's like, synagogues? Don't you mean a church? And they're like, yes. And then they continued on the conversation. But she found it odd that for people who knew Jesus, that they would have made that mistake. And I also find it an odd thing that someone was making this up to add.
The synagogue part. Now, the other part, you don't need to go to church to go to heaven. Sounds like
Someone's just trying
somebody
to-
who feels guilty about not going to
Right.
church would say.
Right.
But yeah, the synagogue part is kind of odd. Why she would throw that in if she was making it all up. Interesting. Maybe I don't know what to say to that. Did they discuss religion anymore that she said?
No, but they did discuss in that period that they were having a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, they discussed lots of issues, women's rights, religion, faith, politics, all the touchstone things you probably would not want to have a conversation with, which is odd.
So who are they going to vote for in the 19?
I love that.
Would have been Margaret Thatcher?
Margaret Thatcher. I love that Maggie Thatcher. I love Maggie Thatcher.
Yeah. My gosh, that is hysterical. So it wasn't the discussion of the politics or religion or anything like that that chased him out of the house.
No.
It was smoking.
It was smoking.
Well, I guess you got
they got
to make a stand somewhere,
a
right?
hard and fast rule about no smoking.
You got to make boundaries.
Well, maybe their where they were breathing was highly combustible.
That could be.
They didn't really explain, but they just
grabbed their pie and booked out of there.
grabbed their key fob and headed back to their UFO.
That's my favorite part is they're running out of her house with their pie and they like hit the key fob and it like lights up like gee. And they're like, get in, go. All right. So Rob, real quick, as we're finishing up here, do you think this story could make it in a sermon?
I do. I mean, I could come up with a sermon for it. Basically, the sermon, we don't have ugly Christmas trees.
That's what you got out of this story.
That's exactly what I took from it. Or aliens going to come down and they're going to knock the bejeebers out of it.
I mean, it's a great story from the perspective of these weird creatures come down and they're talking about Jesus. However, they never once tell her that they're from outer space. They just point up.
Yeah, come from the sky.
They come from the sky.
Would be angels.
It could be angels, right? And it sounds more like angels, except for the mechanical aspects, like the
ship that they got into.
The ship they got into, and the fishbowl on their heads with the lamp and the communicator, or translator stuck to their middles. But I mean, who knows? I have no idea. It's a weirdin'. But I think I could have probably maybe worked something up. But it's one of those where you read the headline of the story, and then you start reading the story and realize it's going to be more work than it's worth to get this to work in a sermon.
And you're just like, yeah, I've got
it's like, this is an illustration.
I can find another illustration to get this
if I have to
done.
explain all this, then it's just not worth it.
Right. Not a great illustration if you got to explain the illustration.
Pretty much. Sort of like a couple of years ago, I did a sermon series based on the Grinch.
And no one knew who the Grinch was?
Nobody knew who the Grinch was in this church. Like 60% of the people had never seen it.
So it completely did not land.
Blew my mind. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know who the Grinch is, man? Yeah, they didn't. And it was an older congregation and they had no idea who the Grinch was.
So do you often find sermons not landing with the congregation?
Sometimes. But,
do you try to recover in an awkward way, or do you just push through?
It depends. Usually you push through.
Doesn't happen every Sunday, though, right?
It doesn't happen every Sunday. Yeah. All right, Rob. Thanks for sharing that story and doing some research and really kind of fleshing that out for us here. Thanks for joining us here on the Parsonage Files. And remember, if you see a bright light in your backyard this Christmas season and you decide to go out and investigate, shut the door behind you.
Always shut the door.
Always shut the door, or you're going to wind up with some space alien something floating into your house and messing up your Christmas decorations
And stealing your pie.
and stealing your pie. So keep that in mind. Take care. God bless. And if anyone is looking for a place to worship this Sunday, we invite you to join us at Groveport United Methodist this Sunday and every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., online or in person. Until next time, Foghat is a band.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like, and if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. If you are looking for a church home, check us out online or in person. There is always a place for you here at Groveport United Methodist.